Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another JCT Talks podcast.
Today we will be talking about cars.
We are also having this month's tea giveaway this episode.
To enter, you can go into the link in the description below and click on the link there.
We hope you like this video and subscribe to the channel.
Now on to the podcast.
As you heard in the intro, today we'll be talking about cars, and I will gladly start us off. And cars is a very interesting subject because the future of cars, it's unknown, but the company Tesla, they're making electric cars, and this is going to be a huge advancement in technology because in our last episode, World Problems, we talked about global warming. And global warming, one of the main causes is car exhaust. And with Tesla, it's electric, of course, so there's no exhaust coming off of it, which means it's better for the environment. They're better cars. They can go faster. They've got much better anything. But see, they're pricey. But in the future, they'll figure out ways manufacturing costs will cut and be lower. So then hopefully in the future, it'll make it cheaper. But cars started in the 1900s, and if you look at a car from 100 years ago compared to today, it's much different because they came up with safety measures, they came with more advances in technology. If you go in your car today, you see leather seats or cloth seats, and then you see a radio, you see controls, a steering wheel, how fast you're going, how much fuel you have. But cars, when they started, it was actually pulled by horses. And this is quite interesting because the design is totally different because when they were pulled by horses, there was no steering wheel. There was no steering wheel that could steer the horses. There would be an actual person moving the horses. And that's how transportation started. But now cars have gone to, there's a steering wheel, you can drive with tires. But cars also have many safety issues now, and a lot of things are being recalled. And that's one of the big problems because one of the major causes of death every year in the United States is car accidents, and they happen every single day. And they've made safety issues to help protect them. For example, airbags and new things so you crush. And they actually have driver safety tests that an actual company tests with test dummies that test okay, how is this car going to drive? How's it doing? When is it gonna stop? How's the brakes on it? When's it gonna stop in the rain? How's its driving conditions? There's a lot of factors that they take into place, and then they judge it and they say, okay, this is how well it's done. And Tesla, one of my favorite brands of cars, is actually in the 100th percentile, 90th percentile for that, and they have very, very good safety. But the problem is, like I said in the beginning, they're expensive. They're really expensive. Compare that price to a used car that you can get from 10 years ago, much more expensive. And there's, in Virginia, at least where I live, you have to get your car inspected every single year. And that's to make sure it's safe to drive on the road. But many states are taking inspections away because cars, well, there's no statistics that show that it's proven that inspections help. So that's one of the very interesting things because cars, there's a lot of factors that take in place. And if you ever go outside at all, there's going to be a road. And you have a driveway at your house, and you most likely have a car. That is how people get around. And it's the number one way of transportation in the world. And every single country has transportation with cars, but the US is so, it's really pushing cars. If you go anywhere 100 feet, there's going to be a street there. There's going to be a stop sign. There's going to be lights, traffic lights. And drivers, to be safe and make sure that crashes are less likely to happen, there's this thing called a driver's test. So how you get your driver's license when you turn 15, 16, and even 17 in some states. And this is to make sure people are safe. And you have to learn how to park. You have to learn how to drive through cones. And that's one of the things to keep safety measures. And in driving, safety is really the number one priority. But then you go to every design. So you have the manual, and you have stick, and you've got a bunch of different types of cars that you can drive. But then you go to designs. So you have the SUV, the trucks, there's a bunch of different, and brands. You go to Toyota, Ford, Tesla, just to name a few, Hyundai, Honda. There's a bunch of different brands of cars and Ford is really, it started, like, that was the first car company in America. That was just starting. They produced millions of cars in the 1900s. Millions, and their factory was just full, just constantly going. And one of the major things with cars that I want to hit on is the Daytona 500 and NASCAR. One of the biggest events of the year. If you watch our Sports Year opening episode, we talked about NASCAR a little bit, but now, because NASCAR, it's virtually, now you can watch on your TV, so it's like basketball and baseball. NASCAR is virtually, which means that you can still be there, but there's no tires hitting your face, there's no loud sounds, there's no, like, exhaust that you can smell. It's a much different experience, totally different. But NASCAR, it really started with, like, all these brands, like car brands like Ferrari, Ford, there's a bunch of different brands, Toyota, that race against each other to prove which of the cars are the best. And there's a good chance that you've watched a NASCAR race in your life, because there are hundreds every year, probably 100. There's hundreds every year, because it's one of the things that car companies like Ford and Toyota are like, we want to win this. This is the best thing that could happen. And it's one of the best things that could happen for their car brand. Because imagine if you're the CEO of a car company, you are CEO of, let's just say, Ford, and you have the option of either paying $100 million in advertising ads on television in the US, or you can put your cars in the Daytona 500 for a couple million just to enter them, and you sponsor a couple car brands, you have the driver, you have your whole team. Probably costs around the same. Guess how much more advertising you would get if you did that? Because your car is going to have the photo of first place. Your car is going to have, Ford number 1, Ford number 36. Your car is going to be, just think about that, because that's one of the big things that car companies have to take into mind. Do they want to race? And there's also car companies that aren't on the side of racing, that are more on the side of luxury. So Lincoln brand, so those cars are more on the luxury side. But Ferrari, they're luxury cars, but they're also racing. And that's how I come back to the designs of cars. If you've ever seen a truck in a NASCAR race, no, I know you haven't, but if there was a truck in a NASCAR race, imagine how different that would be. Imagine a truck in a NASCAR race. That would be insane. Just them driving down. I mean, it'd be a Ford truck. It'd be like, just imagine that in NASCAR races with the other cars. And like trucks, why would you drive a truck in a NASCAR race? That's my question. But electric cars are banned in NASCAR races because they're so much faster. They're so much better. They don't need to stop for gasoline every 20 minutes. They can just keep going constantly. And that's why if they put electric vehicles in races, they would win. So Tesla, they have to find a different way of advertising. Instead of having NASCAR, they would have to say, well, that sucks, but that's what happens when we're an electric car company. That is going to change. That's how, when you start your own car company, nowadays it's really hard because there's so many big top 100, so many different car brands. And all the cars that we see in the US, they come from different countries. Think about BMW, it's German. Toyota, it's Japanese. There's a bunch of different, but Ford, it's an American-made car company. But if you look at if you're sitting in the car, look at all the different cars around you, and you'll see a Chevy, a Ford, a Lincoln. You'll see all these different types of cars, but they're all made from different places. And that's the really cool thing, because they're all diverse. And cars, it's a customizable piece that people can have. Like, if you look at the color of your car, you most likely have a different color of your car than your friend or your neighbor, because colors of cars, there's millions. There's one different shade lighter, one different shade darker, and that's why, in my opinion, the car is the most customizable piece that anyone could own. Because you can customize every single tool that's in there. You could make your engine a better engine. You could get a better battery. You could change your gasoline. I wouldn't recommend it, but you could. You could change your color. You could change the seats out. You could change the stick shift. You could change a bunch of different things. Your radio. I could name millions. No, just kidding. But I could name a lot of parts. But that is really, cars is an amazing thing to talk about, and it's a big topic. So that finishes me up for today. Callum, do you have anything to add and talk about your amazing car experience?
Yes, I do. Yeah, you made some really good points with all the different companies and all the different customization and all of that, and I think that's very cool and interesting. But yeah, cars are a lot of people have them. I mean, when you're like out on the highway or the street even, I mean, you probably see a car each day if you live by a road. Because, well, they're everywhere. I mean, a car just drove by me right now. And there's a lot of cars and car companies, and they come kind of all over from the world, like Jake was saying, and all of that. And, and like some of the biggest, and some like companies like Lamborghini or Ferrari that have these really big, nice sports cars that everyone wants. Those are really nice, and those are like on gasoline and all of that. That's a kind of car that kind of got developed and stuff. And like Tesla, let's look at Tesla. Those ones are pricey, and those are just like cars. Like, I mean, the kind of cars that they sell are kind of cars that you can even get from like $500 on the road for someone selling, But the thing about Tesla, though, is that their cars are way more advanced and way more better, and they're electric, and they're really nice cars, and a lot of people want them because they're really nice. And yeah, I think Tesla's a really cool company, and I think that they're very good for the environment because they are electric and they can ride. The thing is, though, that they still need roads and stuff, and that's gonna kind of destroy. Gotta make roads, but we already have enough roads for it to not really cause any damage. And and I think that in the future, and like, the thing with electric cars is that it's like electricity is kind of renewable, and I think that it's just way easier. And in the future, we're going to see a lot more electric cars than gas cars, definitely in the future. And I think that's going to be very interesting. I mean, Tesla only started like a couple years ago. Not a couple of years ago, a little while ago, but they're very new modern day company. And Elon Musk, the creator of Tesla, he has made so much money throughout the years of a company that he made not too long ago. And it's very interesting to think about that, how his cars are really good. They're really good, and every day you're not going to see a Tesla. That's something that you see maybe once a month if you live in a well-populated area, because not everyone has a Tesla. Like Jake was saying, like a Ford, a Honda, Toyota, a Lincoln, and you see probably those every day. But with a Tesla, you see that twice a month around, because you don't see that every day. Actually, in some places, I guess you could see it every day if you live in like Tesla Central. But I think that, yeah, and like in the future, there's definitely going to be a lot of evolution of cars. I mean, if you look back in the 80s and stuff, those cars were so much different than the cars nowadays, even the 90s and stuff. Those cars are not as advanced, not as modern. They're way different than the cars that you see now. So I think the cars in the future could look way different. And I feel like people are already making a new style of car like each year. And honestly, some of the cars that they make, which look quote unquote cool to them, at least, like Lamborghinis and all of those, honestly, I'm not the biggest fan of them. And I know that could be controversial, but I don't think they look the best. And I think that trucks, like Jake was saying, like on the road stuff, I think that trucks are probably trucks, Jeeps. So those are very good cars, especially because they can go really good off-road. I mean, if you put a NASCAR car against a truck off-road, the truck's going to win because it's made to go off-road, or a Jeep. So yeah, that could be really good. Actually, there are some cars that can go really well off-road, but most don't go good off-road. And maybe if you had a dirt track, a smooth dirt track, then there could be a different story at the end of that. But just grass, like just that, I mean, the truck's probably going to win. The Jeep's probably going to win because those are made to go up stuff like that. And also another, like Jake was saying with the cars in the first style of cars, wagons, that horses drew, and that was way more better for the earth. I mean, that was way better for the earth. I mean, all they used was horses that pulled like a little wooden wagon. I mean, it was way shorter. It took a long time. I remember people that traveled with those cross country. They would only do that once in their life because it took so long. It would take them like years to get from the East Coast to the West Coast or the West Coast to the East Coast. And now you can just do that. You could probably travel back and forth like in like 10 days or something. Or there it just took like a whole year. So that's definitely that's definitely evolved. But at the same time, it's also kind of also hurt the earth, which is not good with all of the exhaust and gas from the cars, which is definitely not good. But cars are very fascinating. Cars are very cool to learn about, and there's a lot about cars that you probably don't even know about. Like I learned stuff from Jake even. I was like, whoa, that's really cool. And yeah, I think that this is a really fun topic to talk about because there's so many cars. I feel like it feels like everyone has a car, but that's not really necessarily true. Most people have a car in America. Let's just say America. About everyone has a car, because they're such a big thing in the United States of America. And in other countries, maybe they're not as big because I know in some Asian countries, motorbikes they are way more common, and in America it's the opposite, where cars are way more common than motorbikes. You don't see people going on motorbikes all the time, where in some Asian countries you do, or European countries. So I think it's very interesting to look at that, and like other countries have their own style of cars, and like you could go to like England, and you could be like, whoa, look at these cars are like these cars are like really different. And then people from England could come to America and be like, whoa, these cars are really weird. How do you work this? I mean, in different countries. I mean, in America, the steering wheel is on the left side of the car, where in England it's on the right side. So that is definitely a different feature. Same with like the lanes, and it's all different in different countries. And I think that's really cool. And like license plate and all of that works. Actually, license plate works different in every state in America. I mean, different kinds and different stuff, and there's special ones that you can get too. And I think that's very interesting. And people have really evolved cars through the years. I mean, radios, those are definitely new ones. Those happened like 70s, 80s, and those were definitely a step up. Instead of bringing your radio into your car and putting it on, you wouldn't even get a signal, but you would still try. You're like, well, why can't I hear anything? And so then they're like, okay, let's just add a radio in here. And that's why there's wires on cars. Or I guess there used to be wires on cars. I don't think there's really any more. I don't know. I think there's like little wires on cars, but that helps. That's for the radio, to get a signal for the radio. You can listen to radio in your car, driving. I mean, like when you go to, there's also like speakers. Like you can hook up your phone to the car, and then that plays through the speakers. And that's definitely happened throughout the years. And like cars are just getting more and more advanced. And I think that'll go in more of the electric cars in the future than the gas, because it's just easier. Not easier. It's just better for the environment, and people want, and I'm sure a lot of people want to do that, and it's a very big step up. I mean, if like Ford, Toyota, Lincoln, if these big companies started making electric cars, then they would probably make a lot more sales to the electric car people, and I think that would be a very good step up for them. And it may be expensive. It might be expensive for them to do, but I think it's definitely a good step up, and it would really help the environment. Because if we, at the rate that we're going, I'm pretty sure I heard something that at the rate that like the world is going at right now, if this keeps up, I think like it'll all be like the world will not. I think I heard something like in 80 years, humans will be like extinct. If we keep up at this rate, or the world will be really bad. It was something like that. like in 80 years and stuff. And like that's not much time. And like there's still so many generations to come, and we need to work our way up to getting higher. And the world, I feel like the world can overcome humans. I mean, the world can overcome. I mean, I remember hearing if a nuclear war happened. I know we're talking this last episode, but I've heard that if a nuclear war did happen, then the world would overgrow it and overcome it, and would like turn everything back into nature, and it would be like a different kind though, and like the world would overcome that from what scientists have found. So if humans get extinct, the world would overcome all the stuff that they've hurt and start new life. And I think that's really cool, because I think that the world can overcome basically everything, which is very cool to think about. But also it can't. I mean, a lot of things in the world could end the world, like, right away. And we don't want that to happen, because we only have one Earth right now. And, and like humans are planning, even like humans are trying to go to like to start life on the moon and Mars, even in case something bad on the Earth happens and we need to evacuate. So we don't want that to happen either. So people just take care of your Earth, because it's very important, because we don't want to see the sky, and I think that's very important to think about. And cars, they're very interesting and they're very cool, and I think that they're very good. But if we start doing the electric cars, then that could just evolve the world even more. And we want the world to evolve more than die more. I mean, if you think of the future, flying cars and all that, that's just gonna be worse. I mean, if you had flying cars, then like all of the gas were just going like even higher, and then you could like start all these like gas clouds. That would not be good. So I think that just keeping the cars on the ground is probably a better idea, and having electric cars is a better idea. I mean, there are more gas stations in the world than or in America than charging stations. If we just if we made them charging stations instead of gas stations, that would be better. It would be easier. And and like how Jake was saying, back in like the day, how cars have really evolved. Back in like the 20s, I told us in one of our episodes, but back in like the 20s and 30s, there were the license plates. They had like if you had like an even number or an odd number, that's what day you could go on. Like I was saying earlier, like with the even, like if you had an even number on your car, you could only get gas on even days, where on odd numbers, you could only do it on odd days. And now you can just get gas whenever, and like in New Jersey, there's laws where you can't pump your own gas. And it's like that in some places. I mean, I know even some gas stations up here, they want to do the gas for you, and it's not a law, but some people just want to do that. And and that's their choice, and I think it's really interesting. And it could definitely go either way. We could either go in the electric way, or we could go in the flying gas cars way. And I think we want to go in the electric way than the flying gas cars way, because that's just smarter for humans, smarter for the world. And we're probably going to go in that way from what I'm hearing. And and I think that's very interesting. And like because we want our world to be good. Anyway, I think that's going to finish me up for now. So Jake, would you like to add anything to what I said, or start your own conversation?
Yes, I would love to start my own conversation. So I really like it how you start talking about how the world, like, it's being really affected from this, and how the world can overcome this once humans go extinct. And that's super interesting to me, because like how much damage the humans have done. But to go to the history of cars, when they started doing damage, was in 1886, and that's when the first car was invented. Now, I always thought that it was in like the 1920s, 1910s. It was 1886 when Carl Benz invented the first automobile. Now, if you look at pictures of this, I'll have one come up right here. It's a 3-wheel car. It's 3 wheels. There's no like roof on it, and it's not that safe. He had many damages, like it broke like years later because like safety issues, like it crashed, and he had many flaws with it. The first one that he had, there's no brakes. And you know what happens when you have no brakes and you're going down a hill? Now, I learned this when I was 5 because I was riding a scooter. and I went down a hill and I fell. It hurt, but cars have had many safety things go through the way. In the Ford Model T, that's the first ever Ford car, the first American car, was in 1908. And guess when the first safety was made? The first car safety at all relating to it. The first safety issue that they had was seat belts, and that was in 1960, which means 52 years later they started having safety. Isn't that crazy? They had 52 years with no seat belts. They had 52 years. Well, the first startings of the years, there was no like enclosed area that you could sit in, which means that, oh, the horse would stop. Well, you'd get like blown out. I mean, you wouldn't with horses, but with a car without a roof, imagine what would happen if you're going 60 miles down a highway, right? Just super fast, and you didn't have a outside of your car at all. It was just wide open, and you just slammed on the brakes. What would happen? I'm not saying do it. Do not do it. You would fly out of the car, and it's super dangerous. And that's why they come with these safety things now. You just go right out of the car, which is not good. And safety has really been the number one priority in cars. But it's safety. But then they really got away from safety in like the 80s and starting in the 30s, really. In 1930 was when they added radios to the car. Isn't that crazy? I thought it was like in the 1980s. In the 30s is when they started having radio broadcasting for weather, for a lot of things, because people had radios, but it being in the car, that was a luxury, and people could hear about these things coming up with news. For example, right now I am filming amidst Hurricane Sally. Right outside my window right now, it's pouring down rain, which is not good, and there's super high winds. But again, like Callum's got like super high winds behind him also, which is not good. But that's, I mean, we heard about it on the TV, but you could have learned about it in the 1920s on your car radio. And that's another safety thing, but that was a luxury. And luxury started coming out in like I said, in the 1980s, when they started coming with, oh, you could choose your car color. Oh, leather seats. Oh, they started making cars for like money. It was really for, there was money. It cost money. It was a luxury. Listen, what's your favorite celebrity? You just just say now, put in your comments, what's your favorite celebrity? Guess what their car, they have their signature car. All celebrities have like, oh, I drive a Bugatti. Oh, I drive a Lamborghini. Oh, I drive a Rolls Royce. Celebrities have that. They have their own fancy car. It's because they spend the money on this, and that's what cars have been turned into. If you look at any Rolls Royce, look at it, there is a starlight in it. You could choose your color. You could have diamonds in your color. They hand sew. It's like $500,000 to have a Rolls Royce. It's super expensive to have these cars. And I think that we've really gone out of the just economic, just normal, like common sense cars, and we've really gone to who has the best car, because that's really something that people brag about. That's something that people just talk about. Like, you don't need to have a Lamborghini to, I think that a car should just be to get from point A to point B. You should be able to do it with brakes and with an outside. You should have all your safety features, but you don't need the brand new Tesla. You don't need these brand new cars, because if you do, then that's a lot of money to spend. And there's some things that like just don't make sense. For example, a Rolls Royce doesn't get very good miles per gallon, but if you go to a Toyota, or if you go to any, have you ever heard of a Jaguar car? It's one of the top luxury brands. Now, it's the super nice car. They have horrible repair records and horrible miles to the gallon. It's awful. But guess what? People still like them, and that's how the cars get the bragging factor. That's how cars get that kind of factor. I mean, of course, everyone has their favorite car. What's your favorite car? Bugatti. What's your favorite car? Lamborghini. You have your favorite car. And yes, it's completely fine to treat yourself and have a luxury car in your lifetime. But again, they get really expensive. And with Tesla, how Callum talked about like electric cars, and they will probably be our future, because they're already really taking over. Like, you see them I mean, you don't see them everywhere, like Callum said, but you see them like on the streets. You see them probably if you're driving on the highway, you will most likely see a Tesla. It's because they're getting so common. But if you look at the design, like I said, I put a picture of about like 2 minutes ago. I put a picture of the original car. Now here, I'm gonna put a picture right here. Take a look at this. So this is a brand new car. Like this is the new. Let's just say it's like an SUV. I just put up editor Jake. Let's see, what are you gonna put up there? So the editor is just gonna put a brand new car, and look at the design of it. Look at how it's like they're made for aerodynamics. It's made for good. It's got curves in it. It's got super flat. It's like super nice. There's no corners on it. It's made to go fast, and it's made to go like really nicely. It looks great, slick. But guess how much that car costs? It costs $50,000, brand new, which is insane. Who needs to spend that much when you could get your first car for, I mean, you probably don't want to spend $100 on your first car, and that car probably doesn't have brakes. But you could get a car hand me down from your parents or from a friend, or you could buy your car, save up, and get one. And that's one of the cool things about cars, because cars will really teach people life lessons. And for example, that's why they have these safety rules, like the police, traffic transportation. You get a ticket if you're on a red light, if you go over the speed limit. They make these for your safety. And I was talking about this earlier, but how they have streets, you will see a street anywhere, and that's how you get to the store. That's how you get to anywhere. But these streets, there's rules to them. If you drive down a mile of a highway or a turnpike or anywhere, you will see a stop sign, a speed limit sign, lights. There's a lot of safety things, and this is like children at play sign or dinosaur crossing sign. You never know. You could just see a dinosaur walk across, a moose crossing sign. That's one of the big things, right? So there's a lot of safety issues that come with cars, and that's the dangers. But Tesla, they started autopilot in 2014 is when the first autopilot came out. And there's this whole thing. I heard this engineer talk once, and he said in the future, the cars are just going to be so cheap. For example, like the Ford SUV or a Ford truck. In the future, if you forget where you parked your car, he said that you're just going to leave your car there and just get a new one for $5. I personally don't think that's going to happen, because why would you throw like away like a car? I mean, that doesn't make any sense to me. But like cars, like yes, it's going to go to electric vehicles. Like Callum said, we're most likely going to get bigger in electric vehicles, and most likely Tesla will dominate the market, because there was a guy that tried to make another electric car company. And, I mean, he succeeded at first, and he made an electric car. But, of course, Tesla just was too big of a competition. And Tesla, just like I was talking about luxuries, Tesla has a special luxury where if you want, like radios were invented in the 1930s, now Tesla, where the radio is, there's no radio, but there's a screen where you can watch Netflix on. You can watch TV shows on it. Right? Like advance in technology. You want to watch our technology episode? We 100% talked about cars. But cars is a huge subject, and I'm going to pass it over to Callum, because if not, I'm just going to be talking forever. So, Callum, you seem to have high winds. Would you like to talk about cars?
Yes, I would love to talk about cars. Yeah, there's a lot about cars, and I like the points that you even made. And yeah, the winds are getting chilly. It's getting chilly now. It's getting like 40 degrees at night. It's not fun. So I mean, I don't know how long I'm going to be out here. Am I going to be out here in my winter coat, my winter ear hat? I'm going to be like, yeah. So I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, with cars and all that. Yeah, like the Tesla, they have the big tablet thing. You can also play games on that. Like there's like you can like do a game, like a steering game or something, like a car game. And like you use the steering wheel to use that, and there's a lot of cool features that come with the Tesla that you can do now. I mean, you can't do a driving game in your minivan. I mean, you can't do it. You can't do that. But with Tesla, you can. It does take a lot to make these cars, and it's very expensive. That's why they're so expensive, the cars. But yeah, I think that they're very good cars, and I mean, if you were if you were a really rich celebrity, you had a lot of money, you're like, what car do I want? I could get a 2020 $1 million Lamborghini, or I could get a $50,000 Tesla. Go for the Tesla. It's just way better. It's better for the economy, or not the economy. It's better. It's better for the earth. Yeah, I think you should go for it. And also, back to your question, Jake, who is my favorite celebrity? It's definitely Callum Bryant from JCT Talks. I gotta go with that. But he doesn't have a car yet, so I'll let you know in a few years. Yeah. So with all the gasoline and all of that, not good for the earth. And I think that also humans kind of also evened out. Like a century ago, they kind of evened out. Global warming wasn't really a problem back then, and I feel like they kind of evened out from coldness, from warmness. I mean, you had the ice age before, and now you're having global warming. And that's not good. And in between that, where humans were centuries ago, it's kind of the perfect spot. But of course, it wasn't that good. I mean, like, if we still used horses to this day, I mean, people would there'd be definitely overpopulation in some areas, and then some people, and then mapping, that would be way harder. So I think that cars can definitely help humans be curious, and but they can also help humans be curious about global warming. So there's definitely ups and downs to both of those. But yeah, and cars are definitely evolving, like I was saying earlier, and they're definitely devolving. Like I saw this like video of these people who turn a Lamborghini into like their own style and stuff. It looks cool and it looks futuristic, but would you want to be driving that around? I mean, seriously. The thing is, like, I feel like really nice cars like that only look good in like a really modern, nice city on a really nice paved road. And if you drove that through the middle of nowhere, on the middle of nowhere Alaskan road, people would just be like, who's that? Where because it would not fit in. And that also has a part in it. If you really want to stick out, I mean, I remember seeing like a Lamborghini in the middle of nowhere where I live, and I was like, what the heck? That does not, or maybe it wasn't a Lamborghini, but it was something like that. And I was like, that does not look good in this terrain. And I know it does in some terrains, and it's a really big, strong car. And you also now like have the Cybertruck, which is that Elon Musk made, which has like, it's basically a military car in your house. If you drove by someone with a Cybertruck, you'd be like, do they work for the military? And I think that those are really nice and strong, and maybe those are good in the zombie apocalypse. And they definitely look like something out of like a futuristic television show, and it's very cool. But honestly, I mean, I honestly think that like older cars look better than the newer cars. I think that they just like look better, and they look better in the earth and a lot of that other stuff. And maybe they're not good for the earth because they run on gas, and they've kind of limited more down onto that. But I think it looks better. If you could have like a car like that, that's electric, that'd be something else. Like if you got a really rusty 80s car, turn that electric, and then you put that on the speedway, and just zoom past all the other cars. I would pay to see that. That would just be beautiful. But yeah, I think that cars will definitely evolve in the future. And we could have flying cars. I know that people really want flying cars. And when you were a kid, you're like, oh, I want to get a flying car when I grow up. I think that would be cool to have a flying car and all. I mean, we already have like helicopters and stuff and planes. I mean, I saw people down our road and they have 2 planes in their yard that they use, which is something. But and like then you have all of these safety things where Jake was saying like there's like crossing signs, Animal Crossing, not the video game, like moose crossing. That's actually very common where I live. And duck crossing, chicken crossing. Why did the chicken cross the road? Well, you have to wait to find out. Then you have stop signs, you have stop lights, you have all this stuff. And like there's also stop lights that are different that don't have the red green, and orange, but it has the orange, but it just like has blinking orange lights, those. And those you got to be kind of smart with those ones. You got to like know who's going to go. Also, one of the most difficult ones that are not that safest, you got to really know your car stuff, your car safety stuff to do that. And this is four-way crosses. Those people get we used to live like every single time we went, we had to go through one of those. And every single time my parents would get so frustrated because some people just didn't know what they were doing. And so yeah, and that's how accidents can start. You could be like, oh, it's my turn, but the other person doesn't know that, and so you definitely have to have, but like it's hard to have safety stuff there. They have stop signs, they have all this stuff, and you got to know. But then you also have, your whole driving stuff. And like Jake was saying with the seatbelts and stuff, yeah, in the 80s, 90s, nobody used them. They were kind of just there. I remember like my dad saying, like when he was a kid, like they didn't even know it was there. Yeah, they did, but like they never used them and stuff, And now like it's safety thing. I remember like seeing this thing where like people went undercover in big trucks and drove up to people to see if their seatbelt was on. And they did that for safety reasons, of course, because you need to be safe. And and also to the radio thing, there's a TV show called like Storm Chasers or something, where these people they drive and like follow tornadoes and all this. They got up close with that. And you know what they always have is a radio. They always need a radio because they can hear where the storm is going, so they can know how to stay safe during that. And that's very important. I think radio is very good for safety in cars, and you definitely need that. And when you look back at like an old movie with old cars, like Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, I'm sure you've heard of that movie. You see the cars in those. That is definitely different than the cars now. And I feel like every year they're just evolving. And lifestyles are too, but cars, I feel like people kind of just think of cars as that thing, and they don't really think much about it. Unlike technology, where everyone thinks about technology, where cars, you're just kind of like, oh yeah, cars. And then there's some people that are really into cars and knows everything about cars. Yeah, that's the wild Ram right there, And I think that cars are very good to learn about, and you should definitely learn about them a little more, So even like I think something that's funny to do, like if you're with your friends, you're walking down a road and you see a Ram, you're like, oh my gosh, it's a Ram. Like the car company Ram, but it's just a car company Ram. Anyway, I don't know what I'm talking about anymore. So Jake, do you want to add anything to stuff I was saying?
Yes, and I really like it how you talk about the environment and how cars will change in the future, because the environment is really important. And those two topics really relate because cars are changing because of the environment. And like we can't use these fossil fuel cars anymore that take gas because we're all out of fossil fuels or like that. So I really like your points, and they're very, very good. But I do have one final question for you is when you think of a car, what pops up in your head? Like just what, like, do you think of a truck? What kind of what pops up in your head? Like a red car, a gray car? Like, what do you think of? That really finishes me up. Like after that question, that's a good question. Answer that in the comments. That finishes me up. So I'm going to end this podcast. So thank you so much for watching today's video. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Now, in the beginning, I totally forgot to talk about this. This is our season finale for season 1. Complete season finale. So this is our last episode. We are going to get back for season 2 in 2 weeks. So that's going to be fun. And this is a season finale. So it's super exciting. We will be back in 2 weeks. So this is a fun episode to end it off. And we have some fun interviews next season. So you get ready for those. Callum, would you like to talk about our Instagram?
Yeah, our Instagram. Always the Instagram. The Instagram is great. We have more followers on our Instagram somehow than our YouTube. So, you should definitely check out our Instagram. We have our bloopers episode, and you can just find fun pictures on there. And yeah, this is our season finale, so it's kind of a fun topic to end on. And as you can see today, I was kind of just talking about a lot of things, kind of going off topic because it kind of was our last episode. This is the last time we're going to be filming for a while. But don't worry, because we're also going to have some extra episodes this week, so we won't leave you hanging on Wednesdays. We'll make like 5 to 10 minute little videos on those Wednesdays, and we'll be back in 2 weeks with some really fun interviews
Yeah, I'm super excited about next season. And if you ever get bored, you can rewatch some of our episodes. Our best episodes so far have been Sports Reopening and the Daniel Vitalis episode. And that's really cool. And this has been an amazing season. We've gotten to interview the CEO of Zesty. We got to interview Daniel Vitalis. We got to talk about a lot of different subjects. It's super exciting. And next season is going to be even better. So don't forget to check that out. Also, enter the giveaway in the description. It's super fun. Click on the link. So thanks for watching. Callum, do you have anything else to say?
Yeah. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being with us for this whole journey. Thanks for being loyal. And we really appreciate it because this was a really fun thing to do. And it's also really fun to get out. Also just really fun to do. I mean, sometimes, I will be honest, like once or twice, I was kind of like, oh, we got to film again today. Man, But then I got out, and I'm like, I want to film like 3 more episodes. And I want to film like 5 more episodes. I've had a really great time filming these. And I think that I was just kind of being lazy and wanting to watch YouTube. But then I'm kind of like, I'm really excited. And I was really excited to film this. And like every week, that was only at the beginning. But yeah, it's been really fun.
Yeah. That is super awesome, and thank you so much for watching today's video, and we will see you in 3 Wednesdays from now. I usually say see you next Wednesday, but we'll see you in 3 Wednesdays from now, so bye!